Imagine an island so rich in untapped resources and so strategically placed that the world's superpowers quietly jockey for influence behind the scenes. Greenland isn't just snow and ice. It's becoming the front line of a 21st century Cold War. What secrets lurk beneath its glaciers? And why are Washington, Moscow, and Beijing racing to claim them? Stay tuned to uncover how a remote island is reshaping global power dynamics. When a recent US administration floated the idea of buying Greenland, it sounded like satire. Yet behind the headlines lies a story of geopolitical chess, mineral riches, and climate-driven upheaval. In this documentary, we'll dive into why the United States, Russia, and China are increasingly obsessed with Greenland. We'll explore hidden rare earth deposits, strategic military bases, and the melting ice that opens new shipping lanes. We'll ask, what does Greenland want for its own future? And what happens if rival superpowers collide in the Arctic? By the end, you'll see why this icy island may hold the key to the 21st century balance of power. A vast ice sheet covers most of Greenland, but under that frozen crust lie minerals critical to modern technology. Rare earth elements such as neodymium and dysprosium power smartphones, wind turbines, and electric cars. Greenland also holds deposits of uranium, zinc, and potentially billions of barrels of oil and gas. As global demand for these resources surges, the island's value rises. China currently dominates the rare earth supply chain. Greenland's deposits could break that monopoly. Western companies have proposed mining projects. Chinese firms have made bids too. Such offers raise hopes of economic independence, but also fears of environmental harm. Inuit communities rely on hunting and fishing, and large-scale mining could threaten their way of life. The tension between development and preservation sets the stage for a deeper struggle. We haven't even touched on the island's position. That's where the strategic stakes become clear. As climate change melts Arctic sea ice, new shipping routes like the Northwest Passage and Northern Sea Route are becoming seasonal, shortcuts between Asia and Europe. Greenland sits along these emerging maritime highways. A cargo ship cutting through the Arctic can shave thousands of miles, compared with the Suez or Panama canals. This could transform global trade, making Greenland a pivotal waypoint. Military planners noticed Greenland's position long ago. During World War II, the US built weather stations and airfields. In the Cold War, Washington erected Thule Air Base, which still functions as a missile early warning station and part of America's missile defense network. Its line of sight over the polar region makes it crucial for tracking missiles or space objects. As the ice retreats, the region becomes more accessible, not just for commerce, but for military operations. Submarines can roam beneath thinner ice, and surface ships can maintain a presence longer. An airfield or port in Greenland allows a nation to project power across the North Atlantic and into the Arctic. The question is, who will build and control those facilities? The United States wants to renew its foothold, but other players have their own ambitions. Russia has the longest Arctic coastline and has invested heavily in its northern frontier. Moscow has reopened Soviet-era bases, built icebreakers, and established outposts along the Northern Sea Route. It sees the Arctic as both a resource base and a strategic buffer. State energy giants explore oil and gas off the Siberian coast, while new ports and rail lines link to Europe and Asia. Greenland may not border Russia, but its location matters to Moscow. A stronger US presence on the island could threaten Russian submarines and missile forces. Russian strategists worry that American radar installations in Greenland could undermine their nuclear deterrent by tracking or intercepting missiles flying over the pole. To maintain parity, the Kremlin is wary of any move that enhances US surveillance in the high north. Russia has also invited Chinese investment in Arctic infrastructure. Yet this partnership stems from necessity. Western sanctions limit Russia's access to capital and technology. While Moscow welcomes Chinese funds, it doesn't want to become a junior partner. Any foreign control of Greenland's resources or infrastructure would be viewed with suspicion. Though not an Arctic nation by geography, China calls itself a near-Arctic state and seeks a role in the region's development. In 2018, Beijing outlined plans for a polar Silk Road to link its Belt and Road initiative through Arctic waters. Chinese ships have already traversed the Northern Sea route, and state companies eye mineral and infrastructure projects across the high north. In Greenland, Chinese firms have proposed building airports, laying telecom cables and developing mines. One bid sought to finance airports in Nuuk and Ilulissat, another targeted an iron mine. Denmark, responsible for Greenland's foreign policy, blocked some proposals, citing security concerns. Washington warned that Chinese control of critical infrastructure near Thule Air Base could pose risks. Beijing frames its Arctic efforts as scientific and cooperative, but some fear that infrastructure projects come with strings attached. These moves have rattled not only Washington and Copenhagen, but also Greenland's leaders, who must balance development and sovereignty. With multiple suitors knocking, local politics become a decisive factor. Greenland's 57,000 residents enjoy extensive self-rule, though foreign policy and defense are handled by Denmark. Many Greenlanders dream of full independence, but the island relies on a Danish subsidy that covers about a third of its budget. Economic development could provide the revenue needed to stand alone. Mining and infrastructure projects could create jobs and raise taxes. But many locals fear environmental damage and loss of control. A proposed uranium mine sparked protests over contamination, and elections in 2021 brought a government opposed to the project. Greenland's leaders are cautious about letting any single foreign power dominate their resources. The United States has tried to position itself as a partner. Washington reopened its consulate in Nuuk and pledged aid for sustainable development. Denmark has increased investment and granted Greenland more say in resource management. These moves aim to counterbalance Chinese offers, while acknowledging Greenland's aspirations. This tension reached a head when the idea of buying Greenland went public. Greenlandic leaders responded that their island isn't for sale. As climate change accelerates and demand for rare resources grows, their bargaining power rises. The next part of our story reveals how climate is rewriting the rules. Arctic warming is happening twice as fast as the global average. Greenland's ice sheet is melting, contributing to sea level rise worldwide. For local communities, climate change is already altering hunting routes and coastal livelihoods. At the same time, warmer temperatures could enable agriculture in southern Greenland and open new fishing grounds. For superpowers, climate change drives both opportunity and insecurity. Melting ice exposes minerals previously locked under glaciers and opens shipping lanes for longer periods. But these opportunities bring environmental hazards. Oil spills in icy waters are hard to clean, and mining could disrupt fragile ecosystems. The loss of ice also reduces the Arctic's reflective capacity, speeding up global warming. Military planners worry that increased traffic will lead to accidents and territorial disputes. Coastal erosion threatens infrastructure like runways and warning stations. Nations may scramble to build or upgrade facilities before thawing permafrost or rising seas complicate construction. Climate change injects urgency into an already volatile competition. In this context, the race for Greenland isn't just about resources or shipping. It's about who will set the rules for a rapidly changing Arctic. As we've seen, America's, Russia's, and China's interests in Greenland overlap and conflict. Here's where the story turns darker. Those ambitions could spark an Arctic arms race. While diplomats speak of cooperation, each country quietly prepares for a scenario in which the high north becomes militarized. New radar, anti-access systems, and even hypersonic missile platforms are being considered. Denmark holds sovereignty over Greenland and plays a pivotal role in shaping its foreign affairs. It is also a founding member of NATO, which has pledged to increase its focus on the Arctic. Through the Arctic Council, a forum that includes Canada, the United States, Russia, the Nordic countries, and indigenous groups, Denmark promotes peaceful cooperation. Recent council meetings have highlighted the need for search and rescue coordination, environmental protection, and indigenous rights. NATO exercises in the high north are growing, signaling alliance solidarity, but they also risk escalating tensions with Russia. Denmark must balance its commitment to NATO with its responsibility to support Greenland's autonomy. Copenhagen has increased spending on Arctic defense, including surveillance drones and Coast Guard ships. It also collaborates with Canada and Norway on scientific research and emergency response. As the competition intensifies, institutions like the Arctic Council and NATO could either provide frameworks for cooperation or become arenas for rivalry. Their choices will help determine whether the Arctic remains a zone of peace or becomes another geopolitical flashpoint. Here's the ultimate reveal. Greenland isn't simply a prize for great powers, it's an actor with agency. Its decisions will shape the balance of power. By leveraging its resources responsibly, Greenland could achieve economic independence while protecting its environment. If external actors rush in without regard for local voices, the island could become a cautionary tale. The bigger point is that Greenland exemplifies the geopolitics of climate change. As ice melts and technology advances, regions once peripheral become central. Rare earth minerals, shipping lanes, and military footholds converge in an island with fewer than 60,000 people. The choices made in Nuuk, Copenhagen, Washington, Moscow, and Beijing over the next decade will reverberate far beyond the Arctic. Greenland's story is a microcosm of our planet's future. It's a test case for how we handle climate change, resource scarcity, and geopolitical rivalry. America, Russia, and China have compelling reasons to court this icy island, but they also share a responsibility to avoid turning it into a flashpoint. As observers, we should pay attention, because what happens in Greenland won't stay there. It could set precedents for cooperation or conflict across the globe. If you found this deep dive enlightening, hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. What path should Greenland take? If you enjoy content that unpacks hidden geopolitical stories, subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss our next episode. Until then, stay curious. Sometimes the most remote places reveal the most about our world.